Hey everyone, it's Brad here from Explore the Backcountry, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about a question I often get asked here, and that is, how do I choose some of these canoe routes or backcountry adventures? So in answering this question, I'm going to have an Ontario focus, but a lot of this information is relevant to other areas, states, and provinces around. Some of the resources will just be slightly different. So one of the best places to start looking for a backcountry adventure would be your provincial, state, or territorial park. Now here in Ontario, we have Ontario parks, and there are over 300 operating and non-operating parks across the province. Operational parks, they offer a wide amount of facilities and amenities. You will have to pay to camp there, and it can be quite expensive if you're going off for a long trip. Prices range from $5 to $21 per person per night, depending upon the park and your age, but an average adult price will range around $10 to $12 per person per night. Now, Ontario Parks does boast some of the most popular paddling places in the world, with Algonquin being number 1, the Boundary Waters Quetico region being number 2, and the Temagami cluster of parks being number 3. So for all those parks, you are going to actually have to pay a fee to camp every night. And because they are popular, you likely will see some people on your route if you're going during the busy summer months.
If you visit the Ontario Parks website, you can find information for operating parks, complete with operating season, permitted use, camping opportunities, maps, and more. The parks website also has a backcountry page, which highlights backcountry opportunities at operating parks. You can sort between paddling or backpacking and see what amenities and features are available. There are a couple types of bookings. Most operational parks offer an online reservation service. While these are primarily for front country campgrounds, there are a handful of backcountry parks offering reservation services. Depending on the park, you reserve an individual site or a lake and choose from the available sites upon arrival. Most of the lesser traveled parks are available on a first-come, first-served basis. You usually won't have a problem securing a site at these parks. Simply purchase your permits at a designated provider and head off on your own adventure, camping at whatever site you please. You can book an interior permit for 4 of the larger backcountry parks. You do not book a site, and this is still a first-come, first-served service. It simply saves you from visiting one of the permit issuers in person. A non-operating park has no user facilities. Often, you wouldn't know the area was a park. Typically, this means you leave the crowds behind. Conservation reserves are fairly similar, and a simplified summary would state that these areas have a greater variety of permitted activities. Many of the non-operational parks and conservation reserves can seem difficult to locate information for, but the Provincial Parks and Conservation Reserve Planning page has ample information on hand. You can browse through all approved management plans and search for permitted activities, natural features, history, maps, and more.
So besides Ontario Parks, there are other organizations that offer backcountry camping, such as conservation areas and certain municipalities, such as the Haliburton Highlands Water Trails or the Upper Thames Conservation Authority.
Many of these providers offer similar services to Ontario Parks, and the online reservation systems are much alike.
So if you're looking to do some adventures a little off the beaten path and you don't have to pay, look no further than Crown Land or non-operational parks. Firstly, Crown Land, also known as public land if you're in the States, is land that is free to all public use. So why paddle a Crown Land or non-operational park canoe route? Well, there are many benefits to it. One of them is you don't have to pay fees if you are an Ontario or Canadian resident. If you are a non-resident, you're going to have to pay a fee of around $9 plus tax per person per night. You can get that online, or you can call the local MNRF district office and you can purchase it that way. One of the other ones is it is likely less traveled than some of those popular areas I already mentioned. And 3, that means the sites and the portages may be in less ideal condition, but at the same time, it also feels like it hasn't been used by a million people and you might find less garbage. The possibilities for exploration on Crown land is almost limitless. You can literally trek, walk, paddle anywhere you choose to, and in Ontario you can camp up to 21 days on a given site before you have to move. Now that all sounds really fantastic, but you're wondering, well, how can I tell what area is Crown land and what area is parks? One of the easiest ways to find land use designation is maps. Maps such as the Back Road map books or other publications have Crown land, public land, private land, and parks on there. Many times they also go into detail and tell you what usages are permitted on that land. But if you want to do some online poking about as well, there is the Crown Land Use Policy Atlas. This is an interactive map that shows you all the types of land use in Ontario, south of the far north boundary and north of off-shield areas in southern Ontario. Quickly looking around the Crown Land Use Policy Atlas map, you will notice there are a bunch of different land type designations. Main ones that will pop out at you are provincial parks, conservation reserves, wilderness areas, proposed provincial parks, enhanced management areas, private land, and general use area, which is also known as Crown land. So you found an area you want to check out, but it connects to some non-operational parks, some conservation reserves, wilderness area, enhanced management area, whatnot, you name it. You're going to want to check out what activities and usages are permitted. There are a few provincial parks, and the classification is a provincial nature reserve, which prohibits camping except in a few rare cases. One good idea is to check out what type of classification a park is, and you can do this by simply clicking the More Information tab on the Crown Land Use Policy Atlas, and you'll get a list of all permitted activities in that protected area.
The Crown Land Use Policy Atlas even has a built-in map editor, where you can add and edit features for your own personal route map. Once you're ready, you just save, print, and go.
So if you are planning a Crown land or non-operational park canoe route, be advised and be wary because you may be in for a rougher tripping experience. Some Crown land areas see a lot of use, especially in the near north region such as Parry Sound, Algonquin Highlands area. But there are plenty of Crown land routes in northern Ontario that see minimal use.
This is basically all that remains of the majority of the Quirk Whiskey Lake canoe route. Yeah, some of the portages are in great shape, but I would say the majority are just an old tattered piece of a portage sign. They're just decimated by blowdowns. I can't even film, it's been just a slog going through the woods.
Now there are some well-documented routes published in several novels that you can read. They've got maps, other resources, lots of information inside. But if your canoe route is not taking you on one of those areas, you might be in store for some difficult conditions. So Crown land can seem a little daunting at first, but really you are free to explore wherever you want. I do recommend potentially checking out the satellite imagery because if you're looking at route data from the 1980s, lots of things change in a span of 30 to 40 years with beaver activity, blowdowns, wildfires, you name it. So a quick Google map search can sometimes save you a lot of hassle. Now some Crown land routes have portages marked if they're on provincial canoe routes, or if the ministry has gone in and maintained some of the areas. You might find signs at the front of portages and campsites, but often you're just going to be looking for a clearing in the bush where the portage is, or a small rock fire ring on a rocky point or amongst the forest to designate a campsite. So if you're looking for some route-specific information, one of my favorite resources to check out is myccr.com. That is mycanadiancanoeroutes.com. There's an online forum there where you can pose any route question, browse trip reports, browse route databases, poke about at maps and photos, and pose questions to the community. There's a lot of knowledgeable paddlers online there who have basically written up trip reports and will be willing to answer any of your questions. Join, provide some information, talk back and forth. It really is a great resource for paddlers. Now, of course, there are lots of other mapping software online. One of my favorites for checking out topographic maps is MyTopo.com, and you can view the Google Earth style engine in topography. You can also print off chunks of those maps and basically plan your trip that way as well. And of course, you can check out our website, explorethebackcountry.com, and look at our interactive trip map to see where we've paddled across the province. A great deal of the routes we've embarked upon have been through Crown land or non-operational parks. So if anything, check out the map and get the wheels turning in terms of thinking about where you want to paddle next. So I've looked on the Crown Land Use Policy Atlas. I have an idea of where I'd like to go. I've looked at some other supplemental maps and I've asked some questions on my CCR, and I think I may have figured out an awesome canoe route. Well, just to verify, I will type in the region or the lakes into a quick Google search and put the keywords such as canoe route or map or trip report. So let's say I want to paddle the Groundhog River. I type Groundhog River, Ontario canoe route, get a bunch of different options, and I'll start filtering through there, looking for advanced searches as well. Google is a really good resource for trying to find out some extra little bits of information. So your route search can go one of two ways. Either it is a popular, well-traveled route with lots of documentation, or no one's done it in 30-40 years and it's going to be a bushwhack slog. If you're not finding much information on that route, you've tried calling your district office, you've talked to other paddlers, and no one has any hints, tips, and tricks for you on that area, chances are it's going to be one of those lost to non-existent canoe routes, and you should be prepared, having saws, axes, you name it. But there you have it. There are a ton of great resources out there to help you plan your next perfect backcountry getaway. If you're still stumped, be sure to subscribe to our channel, as we will be posting videos from the trips we do all over, and it can help get some of those ideas flowing. I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you have a fantastic time out there in the backcountry.